College Baseball Done Bettor. Welcome back to the show. Greg Larnerd here, along with Johnny VTV and our special guest. We got a college baseball betting analyst with us today, Matt Grissom. We're going to talk a lot about games today coming up this weekend. Johnny VTV's already got one going on in the background right now. Huge game between LSU and Arkansas. Johnny, let's start there. Talk to us a little bit about that game. What's been going on with that one?
So last night, and what I encourage everybody to do, the night before a game, so Thursday night, 11:30-ish Eastern time, that's when a lot of the lines come out, at least for the money line. And I knew this was a big series. Paul Skeens is on the mound. Right now, he's the best pitcher in the country. He's probably going to be the first pitcher off the board if Chase Dollander doesn't get it together. Minus 155. Even against a tough Arkansas team, I was like, that's a price we got to grab. That's going to move quickly. And, so far, it was pretty much what it was. Moved out to minus 120 before the game. And as I predicted, LSU is getting a tough run here from a Razorbacks team that's number 5 in the country, sitting with an Arkansas fan right now. And Paul Skeens is in a little bit of a jam against Jared Wagner, Creighton transfer, who's absolutely hitting the cover off the ball. So we need LSU to pull this one out today. They're the root of a lot of my plays on this Friday.
That is a big thing. How are you feeling about it, Matt, being an Arkansas guy?
I'm thrilled. I did bet LSU because I feel like Paul Skeens is just unbeatable. But, my heart still says go Hogs. And if we could pull this off, I feel like we're taking the series. I still think it's possible even if we lose to Skeens today. But,
Go ahead,
this would be a huge step for us.
Yeah, would be big for Arkansas and the Razorbacks. Obviously, LSU, the best team in the nation, or at least one of the best teams in the nation. And from one ace to another, how about Chase Dollander going for Tennessee? And they're going to be facing Texas A&M, the number 21 team in the nation. Tennessee obviously favored here, but as we saw last week, fellas, Missouri gave them some problems. And now I know it's going to be back at home and Lindsey Nelson and the whole thing, but talk to us a little bit about this one, Johnny VTV.
Yeah, so this is something that I'm not betting today because I need to see how Tennessee comes out and responds. They get swept by Mizzou. That's embarrassing. And I want to give them a free pass because it was 30 plus degrees with big wind. That is not ideal for a pitcher. This pitching staff to me is still the best in the country by far. So I think, it's an off weekend for them. Mizzou had a great game plan. They attacked the fastball. They were swinging early, and it worked. It got to every single starter. But offensively is really where it's a concern for me. That's not a fluke. Their offense has not been really hitting that well, except for the Morehead States and those kind of schools. So I need to kind of take a step back on Tennessee this weekend. Not take the money line, nothing in a parlay, because I do think A&M takes at least one game. It's a really good pitching matchup between Chase Dollander and Nathan Detmer from A&M, who has first-round stuff, who might be in that conversation in July. The only thing that I would look at is an under here at 10 because I do think Dollander bounces back with a strong start, and I'm not sure about this Tennessee Volunteers offense, and I think Nathan Detmer is going to have his way with them tonight.
Again, Matt Grissom hanging with us here as our college baseball betting analyst. Matt, do you feel the same way about this matchup, or how do you feel and how do you see it?
I do. I feel like Tennessee probably shouldn't be minus 180 against A&M. I don't think LSU was minus 180 against A&M last week. And I think Paul Skeens is the better pitcher than Dollander, but Tennessee's got to respond. I mean, you would not expect Dollander to come out and have another showing like he did. And I guess Johnny's pumping his fist. Did Skeens just get another strikeout?
Little punchy, baby, going for 10 punches in 6 straight starts. Listen, we talked about Arkansas taking this series. I was with that. I was on that train. I think that's possible if we could bet series prices. But just give me the LSU money line today. Don't be greedy. I'll give you Saturday and Sunday. Just give me today.
So back to Tennessee, 180 is a little juicy to lay it. I ended up parlaying them with Wake Forest. These are two pitchers that I think are neck and neck up there with Skeens, with Rhett Lauder going for Wake, and I'm sure we'll get into that matchup later. But that was the only way I played this one. 180 is a little juicy to lay, and especially with the Vols team that just didn't look impressive last weekend, albeit that the weather was cold. I get it. It was also cold for Missouri. they seem to handle it just fine. So we'll see how Tennessee responds there in Knoxville. I'm not high on this A&M team. I think Detmer, outside of him, their bullpen's not that great. They just don't have the bats to keep up with Tennessee. And even though Tennessee's been struggling, I think Vols end up pulling away in this one.
Speaking of the Vols, speaking of the Tigers, speaking of Dolander, speaking of skiing, Johnny, we're going to have a special show next week for everybody. On Thursday morning, there's going to be a monumental matchup. Talk to us a little bit about what we're going to be doing next Thursday morning.
All right, this is the matchup of the century. This is the pitching matchup you're going to be talking to your grandkids and their grandkids about if you didn't die by then. Paul Skeens, Chase Dollander, not only the two best pitchers in the country, they're the two best generational pitching prospects in over 10 years. Yes, you have two generational pitching prospects in the same draft class. It's LSU, Tennessee, SEC rivalry. This is a great matchup. To be honest, if these two guys are humming on all cylinders like they should be, this should be a total that's set at 8. This should be one of these pitching duels like we're seeing today over my shoulder with Arkansas, LSU. I cannot wait for it. I can't wait to see what this line opens up to be at Tennessee or at LSU, excuse me. I would imagine LSU's probably a minus 140, 145 favorite at the open at this rate with Paul Skeens going against Chase Dollander. You do not want to miss this. If you watch one college baseball game this entire year, Tennessee, LSU, Chase Dollander, Paul Skeens, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time next week. Do not miss out.
Yeah, we're going to have a special show dedicated to just that matchup. That's how special it is. And being at LSU and how good they've been all season long and the struggles that Tennessee has had offensively. And then you talk about Dollander, who's kind of gotten out of the gate a little slower than we anticipated. Like you were talking about, Johnny, I would anticipate LSU to be at least a 140 favorite.
Yeah, I think just the way they're playing right now, it's, the big difference is the Tennessee offense. And if they continue to hit or lack thereof the way they are, I don't really see how they're going to scratch more than 1 or 2 runs against Paul Skeens, and that's being generous. And you would expect Paul Skeens to dominate this lineup and go for another 10 strikeouts. I think he just eclipsed 10 straight strikeouts in 6 consecutive starts. And that could be 7 next week if they continue to do this. Like, we just need them to get on base a little bit more and be better with the situational hitting. And, I think the problem, especially with a lot of the top programs with good offenses, I think the issue is sometimes their aggressiveness, it gets used against them. They always want to swing first. They're going to swing at a bad pitch. I think sometimes you got to vary that approach a little bit. Let the ball come to you. Let the bad pitches go and work deeper counts. Get these starters out of the game and get into the bullpens, and that's where you're going to start doing your damage.
All right, before we get to the rest of the games today, and Matt, I want to work you back in with some of these. We are also, speaking of baseball, getting ready for the 2023 Major League Baseball season with the Bettor Fantasy Baseball Draft. Follow pick-by-pick coverage and learn winning strategies from Kyle Efrink and Johnny VTV himself as the BSN hosts and producers compete against the sharpest baseball analysts out there. The Bettor Fantasy Baseball Draft, part of our free, everybody loves the word free, baseball preview. Watch it now at bettorsports.com. All right, let's get back into it, boys, and let's talk about the next game on the list here. And Matt, let's go to you on this one. Number 22, we've talked about Missouri. Big weekend last weekend. They're at South Carolina. They're the underdogs once again. Seemed like they like that moniker for them. How do you like this one, and what stands out to you about how you want to bet it?
So I guess the biggest thing is hats off to Missouri for upsetting Tennessee last week, getting the sweep. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card for 2023. Missouri plus 145. The more I think about this, I mean, South Carolina, they're a great team. They can hit the ball. Should Missouri be plus 145 after beating up on Dollander and the rest of the Tennessee Volunteers pitching staff? I mean, South Carolina's pitching staff is not as good as Tennessee's. I would say South Carolina has the advantage in the bats. This is going to be a very intriguing series to me. I think I'm going to lay off a bit today, but if I can get Missouri playing good tomorrow at a plus 145 price or better, I may have to Take the Tigers here. I think they may be a dark horse in the SEC this year, kind of like Kentucky. They're a scrappy team, and if Zach Franklin gets in with the lead, I think he shuts it down.
Yeah, I'm not listen, I wouldn't doubt it, but you know what? As good as that Tennessee sweep was last week, I need to see a little bit more first because the Mizzou was projected to finish last or second to last in the SEC this year. And they've obviously exceeded expectations, but the fact is South Carolina is a team that I've been talking about for a long time. I picked them to make the College World Series at 10-1. Of course, had to do on an obscure book in Arkansas, one of yours, Oaklawn. But the thing is, I was looking at them the first week of the season. They were a bad team last year. But now this year, if you look at what they've done to this point through 23 games, whatever we're at, they're leading the country in home runs with 56 coming into the week. They have this third best ERA in the country. And, they're doing it in multiple different ways that they're beating you. Their lineup is loaded. They're led by Gavin Casas, who's got 12 home runs, one off the lead of the country, younger brother of Tristan Casas, Red Sox prospect. They have 3 legit pitchers. And Matt, me and you just talked about this in our last podcast. There's maybe only 4 schools in the country that have 3 really legit pitchers on a weekend. Now, I don't think they have 3 number ones, but they have 3 legit pitchers. But Will Sanders, who is a first-round prospect, probably going to be top 20. They have Noah Hall, who was okay last year, and he's really settled in nicely to the Saturday role. And then they have Jack Mahoney on Sundays. And I think they have the pitching advantage there, and then they definitely have the offensive advantage. So 180, I understand, is a little steep, and I do think Mizzou is going to take 1 in this series. And if they do, it would probably be tomorrow. But I think at least for a half unit, I like the Gamecocks today, minus 180. I think their price that's dropped from 100 to 1 all the way to 25 to 1 in the futures is warranted. They are legit. They're the real deal, man. This Gamecocks team is going to be a force to be reckoned with in June.
Yeah, they're a very good squad, and they're going to make some they're going to do some damage this year. So we'll see what happens with them. Let's go on to our next game, and the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. They're the number 2 team in the country. They're favored not as heavily as South Carolina is, but they're facing a number 17 team matchup of 2 top 25s. Miami coming to town. They're plus 130. The run line's minus 1.5. The over under 11. Matt, let's start with you. What do you like about this one?
I love Wake Forest here. The line at Circa wasn't as good. I think it was 190 here. They're a very sharp book when it comes to college baseball. Jeff Davis does a really good job setting these numbers. But at 160, I think that would have to be a 2-unit play for me. I love Rhett Lauder. I love this Wake Forest team. I think they could be a legitimate shot to win it all. And Miami, I just don't get the love for Miami. I don't think they're a very good team. They've kind of gotten by. They took 1 against Florida, which was impressive, but I just don't think the longevity through the ACC conference play, it's going to work out. Wake is the far better team. I think they should be more priced around that 195, like LSU or Tennessee.
I think Wake Forest is a legit team here. And anybody that followed me, long enough knows right before the Super Bowl, I was talking about Wake Forest with Joe Doyle from Prospects Live. And we're talking about Wake Forest at 40 to 1. How great of a number 40 to 1 was on Wake Forest. 2 days later, it's down to 25 to 1. Now, I don't know who was listening. I don't know who bet it, but I was really upset that I missed Wake Forest because I was a little wrapped up with my Super Bowl betting. I didn't want to throw all my bank on just yet, but yeah, Wake Forest, man, we've been talking about them since January. I think this team is legit. They have one of the best pitching staffs in the country, and that includes with losing a guy like Teddy McGraw, who's probably going to be a first-rounder. Rhett Lauder heads his rotation. He's got a sensational changeup. That's what he lives off of. He's going to probably be top 10, top 12, I would say 4th pitcher off the board. But this offense, 1 through 5 in their lineup, might be the best in the country, even with a team like LSU and Florida. They're so good. They have 2 guys that could be Golden Spikes finalists, with Brock Wilken at 3rd and Nick Kurtz, the first baseman, who I think is going to be a top 5 prospect next year in 2024. This team is deep. They're loaded with playmakers, and I really believe that this is going to be a team that we're going to be seeing at the end of June. I'm all over Wake Forest, and I think today against Miami, they should be the advantage. I like them over Carson Ligon, even with how well Miami's played in recent weeks. It should be the Demon Deacons today for me.
All right, let me sprinkle this in here for you guys because I've heard both of you mention like different books and whatnot. And, college baseball isn't widely, seen across a lot of different books. So, Johnny, talk to us a little bit about trying to find different lines. What's your strategy about going through it and who has the better lines and things along that if somebody's looking to find the best lines and to get into betting college baseball?
All right. So, like I said, typically, like it's important to know the schedule a couple days in advance. I typically like to look for a Friday night game. I like to look at it, like I said, Thursday night, 11 to 11:30 p.m. is when a lot of them are going to come out. And then most of the time, just following it, you're knowing who's going to pitch. Like LSU, Paul Skeens is going to go. That's a good number to throw on any time when he's throwing, even against as good of a team as Arkansas is. But typically it's DraftKings. DraftKings is the first one to come out. They typically set the market for the big books. There's DraftKings, Caesars, a little bit of Bet365. Now I've kind of seen FanDuel and BetMGM start dabbling in it a little bit. Their lines aren't that sharp yet. Like they're minimizing liability and exposure, but they'll still put it out there. But DraftKings is the tone setter for college baseball, in my opinion, at least to the public. And they usually have pretty fair lines. A lot of times, though, they are beatable. So I think it's always about just getting ahead. It's about beating closing line, and I think DraftKings is the spot to go to.
And I know we talked a lot about on the last show, Friday night guys, and some different vocabulary when it comes to college baseball. Against Major League Baseball. And for those of you who don't know, and just college baseball wise, Friday night guys, typically like a guy like Paul Skeens and Chase Dolander, those are the guys that are going to be your aces, the guys that are throwing on Friday night when they start the series generally. Sometimes it'll start on Thursday, but you still call them the Friday night guy. So there's that as well. Let's continue on here as we talk about these games. And Matt, I want to go back to you and the Bobcats of Texas State. They have been playing some really good baseball of late. They're going to take on another Sun Belt Conference opponent in Coastal Carolina out there in North Carolina. Coastal's favorite, the Chanticleers, are minus 145. The run line minus 1.5. You get a little plus money there if you like that. And the over under 13. So they're expecting a lot of runs to be scored. When you look at this line and if you're gonna bet this game, what do you like? What do you not like? Maybe more importantly.
I think Coastal Carolina always has to be synonymous with a high total. They just hit the ball, but I like Texas State here. I know Johnny and I talked about Texas State's pitcher that's going tonight, and I feel like they should probably be a slight favorite with the advantage on the bump. So I'm going to take the plus 115 price with the Bobcats.
So here's what it comes down to. Coastal Carolina, Texas State both hit the ball. They both got pretty good offenses. But what you're going to give me the plus money dog in Texas State with Levi Wells throwing. There's a big pitching disadvantage between Texas State and Coastal Carolina, much in favor of the Bobcats here. Levi Wells is one of the best pitchers in the country. I would say he's one of the best, Matt, 20. I think that's a fair assessment to call Levi Wells. Whereas Coastal Carolina is throwing Jacob Morrison, a freshman with an ERA that's over 5.7. He's okay, but he's young. He doesn't have the experience that Wells does. I really am a fan of Levi Wells. I think he's going to silence this Coastal offense. But at the same time, we're going to get a good offensive showing from this Bobcats offense that right now they have a guy by the name of Chase Mora leading the team in home runs with 9, also batting .370, what a 1431 OPS. And then right behind him, they have Jose Gonzalez batting .392 with 8 bombs and a 1343 OPS. This is where I would look. You cannot give me plus money with Texas State not expecting to take it. I think if I'm breaking this down by the series, it goes Texas State Friday, Coastal Saturday, and then with Zeke Wood for the Bobcats on Sunday, that's one we're hitting.
And when you look at this Texas State team, they're a team that's won 4 games in a row, just 2-2 on the road. They haven't played a lot of road games, and they just beat Southern Miss in a conference series 2 out of 3. And they had a couple of midweek games as well. So against Texas A&M Corpus Christi and then HCU. So see where that bullpen is. They probably had to throw a lot of arms in the midweek and things like that. And who knows how the position players, I'm sure they'll be okay. But let's continue to move on here with our games that we wanted to get into. Let's go to the Duke Blue Devils, who are plus money on the road against their basketball rivals on the hardwood. This is a phenomenal matchup. I don't know if it has the same juice on the baseball diamond, but you guys tell me. Duke at North Carolina. What do we like here? Johnny, go. You start us off.
Okay, so basically my assessment last night was I'm not betting the Thursday night game, which, ordinarily is the Friday night game. It's the series opener. Max Carlson for UNC is pretty solid. Duke wasn't throwing their best guy. They are tonight. Jonathan Santucci on the bump. Lefty, 95, 96 in his back pocket. Really good slider who could bump himself up in the draft board over the next coming year or two. I think as much as I love Vance Honeycutt for UNC, who's a profile comp of Trey Turner, who's going to be a top 3 pick next year, and Matt Horvath, I think I have to go with Duke tonight. They're not going to get swept. They're going to take one at plus 120. There's a pitching matchup advantage with John Santucci over Gavin Horvath or Gavin Farbor.
Mike? Matt, sorry.
No, you're good. Thought we brought somebody else on. Just echoing what Johnny said. I like Santucci. I think Duke does get 1, maybe 2 games in this series. I'm not sold on North Carolina yet. Haven't seen enough. They're just kind of one of those sleepy teams that just do enough to get by, win a couple games. But I think Duke has some really good hitters, and pair that with Santucci on the bump. I think Duke's the play there.
All right, let's run through these next 4 or 5 games that we have here. Vanderbilt made a nice jump in the top 25. They're number 4 team in the country. They're favored at Mississippi State. Matt, I'm gonna start with you and go to you on this one. Talk to me about Vanderbilt at Mississippi State, a good SEC matchup.
Man, these are 2 teams that I'm not high on at all. I don't think Vanderbilt is worthy of being a number 4 team in the country. I feel like so much of that is just the clout of Tim Corbin and the Commodores. Mississippi State's got the what's his name? Johnny's better with knowing all these kids' names. The ambidextrous pitcher.
Switch pitcher for Mississippi State. Durangelo Senchi.
Yeah. There you go. Say that 5 times fast.
For sure.
Yeah, so you've got him on the bump tonight against Vanderbilt's guy.
Carter Holton.
His name just escaped me. There we go. Thank you. I would lean Vanderbilt, but this is a stay away for me. I don't think Vanderbilt is great. I don't think Mississippi State is good at all. The line seems right, so it would just be a stay away for me.
So for me, Vanderbilt, I'm on the same page here. I don't buy them yet. It was a big sweep. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they're bouncing back into form. The Vanderbilt Commodores are like the New England Patriots of college baseball. They're a blue blood historic program, and I think right now I'm staying away from this. Even in a good pitching matchup, Carter Holton, who's pitched really well thus far against Durangelo Senchi from Mississippi State, the switch pitcher who sits 94, 95 as a righty, 92, 93 as a lefty, a guy we're going to hear about in a couple of years on the draft board. Mississippi State was a darling team of mine preseason, but they're very young and inexperienced, and I thought that was going to happen at this point in the season. I don't love this game from a side standpoint, but I think the total of 11 is just a bit too high. I think Holton's going to silence the Mississippi State offense yet again, and Senchi's going to have a bounce-back performance after a subpar outing against Kentucky.
All right, we'll stay in the SEC. Let's go out to Ole Miss, another matchup of 2 top 25 programs. Ole Miss, they're favored slightly over Florida, one of the best teams in the country. Johnny, talk to me about this one. Nobody's sort of plus money on this one. What do you like? Do you like this game? Should we be on it? I know you're high on Florida this year.
Yeah, Florida. I'm on Florida. Minus 125. We don't get that price too many times, and I think Ole Miss is kind of like Vanderbilt. They got the name. They're coming off a win, national championship win. But the fact is, Ole Miss lost a lot of their pitching from last year, and their best guy, Hunter Elliott's not even throwing anymore. He's battling an injury. We don't know when he's going to be back. But to be honest, I think Florida's got the matchup advantage. They got the better pitcher in Brandon Sproat, who might be a first rounder this year after turning down a 3rd-round invitation from the Mets last season. He's hitting 100. Jack Caglianone, who's hitting absolute bombs, leading the way with 13 in the country. I think Florida is the matchup advantage here on the road against Jack Doherty and the Ole Miss Rebels.
All right, Matt, we got to keep rolling. So let me go to the next game here as we wrap things up. 2 games left. Matt, I want to ask you about this one. Washington going on the road. UCLA, a really good UCLA team so far this season. 15-3, 12-0 at home. They've yet to lose at home. So does that influence your decision? And the money's not great if you favor UCLA because they're minus 305. Do you see any value on Washington? Do you want to play the over/under, the run line, anything along those lines in this game?
I think this is a good opportunity to take a long shot here with Washington plus 240. I don't think UCLA can hit the ball very well, and if Washington, it may be a race to 5 runs. If Washington could jump out early, I don't think UCLA's got the firepower to bounce back. So I took a quarter unit play on Washington plus 240, and I would say that the Huskies don't have the pitching to contend with UCLA, but I do think Washington could jump out on them early, and it's going to make it tough for UCLA to bounce back.
So I think ultimately we have Washington here. This is one of my favorite plays of the season, upset wise thus far. Grand Canyon is the only one that I think was a better hit against Tennessee at plus 295 on the opening night. The Washington Huskies have a matchup advantage here in the pitching department. The best pitcher you never heard about is Kiefer Lord from the Huskies. This kid transferred in from Carleton. This kid's awesome. He's got high 90s in his back pocket, wicked 12-6 curveball. He is a funky, weird delivery, but it works. He just got beat up by Rhode Island last week. It's a bounce back spot. UCLA, you just heard, they're not that great offensively. They're not a big hitting team. They don't scare me. Them being number 7 is insane to me. UCLA is just an overrated sports program of every single kind. And college baseball is the one sport where the margins are so wide that a plus 240 any given night could come back and hit this. So I think Kiefer Lord is going to outpitch Jake Brooks, the Friday guy for UCLA, who's plus 4 ERA. He's okay, not overpowering. Washington's got some guys like AJ Guerrero, Will Simpson, and Cam Clayton that can hit the ball. So I think the Huskies are a big plus money upset today. I got a full unit on them. I really like them. I think this one could come home, and it would not surprise me if it does.
Love the confidence there. Full unit play. And for Washington, the Huskies, they're 6-2 away from home this year. So something has to give. We'll see what happens. All right, our last game, fellas, as we wrap up the show here. Houston, Sam Houston, plus 140 at Grand Canyon. Johnny, I know you love Grand Canyon. Talk to me about this one and where you see them.
So Grand Canyon is another one of these teams that has 3 good pitchers going, and I don't even think they throw their best guy on Friday, Zach Thornton. He right so far has been their best though. Grand Canyon's got good pitching, and they have pretty good hitting, led by Jacob Wilson, who in my opinion is the best shortstop prospect in this class. Ahead of Ole Miss's Jacob Gonzalez. Wilson's father, Jack Wilson, played in the college in the major leagues. But I think against Sam Houston, they have an advantage here. I would still lay the 175. Ultimately, though, Sam Houston should win one game. I'm just not sure which one it's going to be. They have a really good pitcher, Colton Atkinson, going tonight, but I'm still going to go Grand Canyon.
Matt?
So to touch on what Johnny said, if Sam Houston does win one game, I think it is tonight. So I did a half unit play on Sam Houston. I think the Bearcats plus 140 is a value play tonight.
There you have it. College Baseball Done Bettor. Johnny VTV, Matt Grissom, thanks so much for being our guest here today. I'm Greg Larnerd. We will be back with y'all next week again on Thursday. That huge matchup, Tennessee at LSU. Johnny, I know you're pumped up. I can't wait for it down here in Knoxville as well.
Dude, it's going to be legendary. Don't miss this. Don't be that person that misses this. This is something that is just in 5 years when these two are just elite pitchers in the league, you're going to be like, wow. I remember watching them pitch against each other on that Thursday night in college.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Go ahead, Matt. You got one more? Oh, no, he's saying no, absolutely not.
No. Yep. Don't run on him.
That's right.
You just got picked off.
College Baseball Done Bettor. Boys, it's been fun for the Better Sports Network. I'm Greg Larnerd. Have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you next time.